first story, Ghana is said to have been saved 7.2 billion cedis over the next 13 years in needless energy contracts. Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko told Parliament on Friday the state would have had to pay capacity charges for the power purchase agreements that have now been either terminated, reviewed or deferred. He explained the agreements would have provided the country more power than needed if they had been allowed to stand. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
Mr. Agyarko gave a breakdown of the 18 PPAs which have been affected.
The review recommended that 1, 4 PPAs with a combined capacity of 1,810 megawatts be deferred to 2018 from 2018 to 2025. 2, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the review exercise, the government stands to make significant savings from the deferred and or termination of the reviewed power purchase agreements. The estimated cost for termination is $402.39 million compared to the average annual capacity cost of $586 million each year, or a cumulative of $7.6 billion from 2018 to 2030. Mr. Speaker, this yields an estimated savings of $7.217 billion over a 13-year period.
But Minority spokesperson on Mines and Energy, Adams Mutawakilu, says rather than terminate the agreements, government could have kept them so that the excess electricity could be exported for revenue.
He is looking at how much they will pay the contractor and how much they have negotiated to pay off. But he didn't look at if we had been producing and sell to neighboring countries. So that's why I was more particular about the West African gas power pool. He's just looking at, they would have been taking over 500 million, but we'll be paying them about 400 million and multiply over. But you don't look at that way. You also look at if you had produced it and sold it to neighboring countries, how much revenue have we gotten? That is how you look at it.
Then he says the price would have been bad. And
that is why my follow-up question, assuming if you look at the tariff structure, we have the capital charges, we have the fixed OAM, and we have the variable OAM. And that is why the NDC government was shifting from light crude oil to gas. So I believe that with the gas coming on board, this tariff would have dropped drastically and will be able to meet the minimum required by the West African power pool. And if we had sold it to other countries, we would have made much more profit than what he's talking about.
So, fundamental question. Mr. Agyarko also told MPs that efforts are being made to ensure regular gas supply to the Abuadi thermal plant.
2, construction management agreement between ENI and Ghana Gas, the tie-in and interconnection agreement between WAPCO and Ghana Gas, tie-in and interconnection agreement between ENI and Ghana Gas. All these agreements are being negotiated concurrently since they are independent of each other. The most critical activities, namely the signing of the gas transportation agreement term sheet and the award of the EPC contract, have been undertaken, and the project is on schedule.
You will now require a passport or birth certificate to acquire the officially recognized national ID, the Ghana card. This follows a passage into law, an amendment to the National Identification Register law to restrict the acceptable documents for national identification to the 2. The amendment, passed by Parliament on Friday, however, allows others to vouch for persons without either a passport or birth certificate. Chief Executive of the National Identification Authority, Professor Ken Atefa, says the amendment coming before the registration of persons for the Ghana card from next year will make the process more effective.
The bill sought to make amendments to the existing law on the National Identity Register Act. And the purpose is to, on the one hand, expand the options for the determination of citizenship, whilst at the same time restricting the parent document which an individual can use in proof of their claims to Ghanaian citizenship. That is to say, by the passage of this law, this bill into a law today, when you go to register, you can only use your birth certificate or your valid passport to prove your citizenship. In the absence of any of these two documents, you will then be required to have a relative vouch for you. In the absence of a relative, any two persons who have registered and been issued with an ID card who know you can then vouch for you so that you get your Ghana card. It is very significant, but I should hurry to add that you will also be required to bring along all other identity cards or identity documents that you have. That provision in the law has not changed. So if you have a driver's license, national health insurance card, voter ID card, all those kinds of things, passport, you bring them. We will take a scan of those things, return the originals to you, you go away with them. But we have an electronic copy of those documents. It enables us to do data harmonization and integration about the identities of persons in the country.
The minority in Parliament is demanding that President Akufo-Addo immediately makes available to the House a full list of presidential staffers. The minority says though the Constitution makes it a requirement, the Akufo-Addo-led administration has so far failed to do that. Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu raised the issue on the floor, prompting a response by the Majority Leader, who assured the list will soon be provided.
The presidential staff, the strength of the presidential staff, the Minority Leader is saying that the House should demand. I think that is a matter of course, even though that matter does not relate to the business statement before us. But tangentially, and I know the Minority Leader always wants to position himself as a rolling stone, which will gather moss. He wants to bring everything to the basket at the same time. It is not part of the business statement, but it is still relevant to the House before we adjourn on the 22nd of December. I think we should request for that information before the 22nd of December for us to satisfy ourselves about the expenditure involved in the staff at the Flagstaff House.
MP for Busa South, Dr. Clement Apaak, has meanwhile filed an urgent question seeking answers from the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs on when specifically the list, which he believes is bloated, will be made available.
Well, I think that it is a requirement by the Presidential Act 1993, Act 463, that annually the Office of the President should provide a full list of the staff at the presidency to Parliament. And so it is only fair and proper that I file a question to find out when that list will be provided. There are various reasons why it is important that Ghanaians know how many people are working at the presidency. You would also notice that the Minority Leader, in making comments regarding the business statement, raised that issue to which the Majority Leader responded. So it is required, and we have a right to know how many people are working at the presidency, because it has implications for public expenditure and for us to better appreciate costs in as far as expenditure in the office of the president are concerned. When we were in government, the then opposition party, now in government, definitely made a big meal out of the request for the list of persons at the presidency.
Is that what you're also seeking to do now, to make a big meal out of it?
No,
you have suspicion?
It was their right to do so, and we certainly admitted and provided the list. So if the tide has changed, I think that it's only fair that we also ask that they let us know, those working at the office of the president.
There's been a lot of concern about the government being too big, 119 ministers. Do you see same as the presidency, at least from Kejulu?
Well, it's hard to tell, but if I was to guess on the basis of the fact that we have 110 ministers, I wouldn't be surprised if the list turns out to be, the biggest list in the history of the Fourth Republic, and as far as the staff at the office of the president are concerned. But the onus lies on government to provide that list so that any speculation or any guessing by people who don't work there or myself will be put to rest.
A national sanitation campaign has been launched to bring to fruition President Akufo-Addo's quest to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa before the end of his first term in office. The promise was made sometime in April, and Accra Mayor Mohamed Adjeso says the city is on course to realize that dream, having already shut down 80% of illegal dump sites. He says the Assembly will also end open defecation through its Toilet for All program.
The president's remark has raised the standard so high, so that with whatever progress that we have made, we are unable to tout it, because we are looking at the best. I came to inherit over 40 unauthorized dump sites in the city, and we've closed down about 80% of them. Is it not an achievement? We've commissioned a transfer station in the history of this country, that the first time, working with the private sector, a transfer station has been commissioned, which provides an intermediary facility for cutting of refuse. Because if you want to go and dump refuse at either Nsomiakpo, a minimum round time of in fact, a minimum distance of about 80 to 90 kilometers. So a compaction truck leaves Accra and go to Pom. By the time you come back, night, and you can't do anything again. So we have cut down on the distance, and the president has reiterated his promise to help the city and the Ministry of Sanitation to construct additional transfer stations. It's not the case. It is probably people sometimes trying to say, but where are the heaps of refuse? If they are, show me, I'll go and collect the refuse. That's my job. That's why I've been appointed by the president. I'm supposed to be collecting all the refuse. But I agree that we haven't gotten to the point of the expectation of the president and the fact that we have to be the cleanest city. One of the critical issues that we need to tackle is about littering. That's why the president launched to change our attitude.
Still to come in the bulletin, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation is to suspend its operations in Kumasi following a disconnection of its electricity supply. And health practitioners urge to cite pregnant women about the possibility they may deliver preterm babies as the world marks Prematurity Day.
Every mother goes through pregnancy thinking, I'm going to have a full-term healthy baby. But sometimes it doesn't happen. The baby may come full-term and may be ill, or may come preterm.
Now, 3 judges in the northern region are likely to face sanctions after their names came up for unnecessarily remanding suspects who appear before them. Chief Justice Sophia Kufu at a Justice for All program session at the Tamale Central Prisons on Friday further warned judges who engage in the practice will not be spared. The session saw 3 inmates being unconditionally discharged. Seth Kwame Boateng sent in this report.
The 3 judges found to have been unduly remanding suspects were identified by the chairman of the Justice for All program after he scanned through court documents of suspects whose cases were to be heard on Friday. Justice Clemens Honyanuga would not name the 3, but dropped hints of the possible sanctions.
Workshops have been organized for them to enable them do the right thing, but some of them continue to go contrary to all the teachings. Yeah, that is why they need to be punished.
Northern Region President of the Ghana Bar Association, Mohammed Al-Hassan, and the supervising High Court judge in the region, Justice Kwame Apenkwa, both endorsed the move to sanction recalcitrant judges.
I do agree with him that the liberty of the individual must reign supreme. So whatever it takes, lawful means to decongest the prisons, it's a good idea. It's a good thing, and we must continue with it.
Chief Justice Sophia Kufu stressed she would not allow the rights of people to be abused while they languish behind bars on remand for bailable offences.
Whether it has to do with insufficient or uncompleted investigation, whether it has to do with incomplete prosecution, whatever the causes are, we will not really lend ourselves to the encouragement of this activity, which, when taken to an acceptable extreme, amounts to nothing more than abuse of human rights.
She dismissed suggestions the program was unleashing criminals into society.
I have also noticed from time to time from the media comments and criticisms, negative criticisms of this program. Maybe it's because of lack of understanding. It is not intended to release dangerous persons onto the unsuspecting public. It is intended to decongest the prison, and it is on the basis of that that the Justice for All program operates. And we deal with remand prisoners either to bring closure to the procedure by convicting, if that is what is called for, or by releasing either on discharge or on bail.
Apart from the 3 inmates of the Tamale Central prisons who were unconditionally discharged, 13 others were granted bail at the end of Friday's hearing. According to POS Foundation, an NGO which screens and selects prisoners to appear before the court, the last hearing for the Justice for All program for the year will be held in Koforidua. Seth Kwame Boaten's report for Joy News.
Teachers and students of Pakoso Community Day Senior High School in the Ashanti region are compelled to improvise due to lack of furniture. Some students are compelled to sit on the bare floor during lessons. Lack of a science laboratory is also taking a toll on science education in the school located in the Sokori Mampong municipality. Authorities fear the situation, among many other challenges, can affect overall academic performance unless there is some intervention. Today on Joy News Agenda, Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin assesses conditions in the newly built school in its second year of operation.
Pakoso Senior High School is one of the educational facilities built by the NDC government under President John Dramani Mahama. This and over 40 other such structures have been hailed as beautiful and timely for the implementation of the free senior high school policy. It has provided opportunity especially for children in areas who otherwise could not afford education outside of their immediate environment to go to school. Like many other schools, however, its running is replete with many challenges, especially at the inception of free senior high school. No furniture in both the classrooms and library, and students sit on the bare floor. The situation here is very worst. You can see more than 10 students are sitting on the floor. They are writing their notes on the floor and they are doing their class work on the floor. I mean, some of them tell me that they cannot even concentrate because they've been sitting on the floor for about 2 months now, and the situation is getting worse. They want government to come to their aid.
I feel really sad when I'm sitting on the floor, because when I'm writing, I don't even see on the board. You know, I'm really short, and you can see my friends here. So we are pleading the government to bring more facilities for us so that we can learn. That's all what I have.
We feel very bad when we are sitting on the floor, but we want the president to give us plenty chairs for us to learn. Thank you.
So, my name is Fatah Suleiman. Actually, the situation of the school is very poor for us. When we come to school, we don't get tables and chairs. We go to other classes to get some tables and chairs to come and sit it. So others, they shouldn't allow us to take their tables and chairs to come and sit it.
So let me speak to the girl here. She has also been sitting on the floor for about how many months now?
3 years, 3 weeks now.
3 weeks now. You've been sitting on the floor for 3 weeks now.
Yeah. So we are suffering. When we learn, we forgot it. So we can't concentrate what the teacher will taught about it. When we cannot write well as well. So we need the government to help us to come and give us a chance to sit on it.
So that is the situation here. You have heard all that the students have to say, and all they want is authorities to come to their aid and make sure this particular problem is solved. Even the headmistress's office is empty without chairs for visitors. A lot of books for the library, but sadly, students have no place to sit and make use of the facility. They are compelled to share chairs in twos and even threes.
I doesn't feel well because even now we cannot write.
I'm not feeling well. Why? Because we don't have plenty chairs and table. Because if they didn't bring chairs, why did we have to learn?
You are about 40 something, almost 50, but the assignment I have on my table is less than 30. You didn't do it. So how come you didn't submit it?
Madam Milla Tahiru is the English tutor here. So how do you feel? I mean, you've seen some of your students sitting down on the floor. How do you feel about the situation?
It's actually pathetic because as a teacher and then as a parent, you come to class and you see your students sitting on the ground learning. It's actually not nice looking at them that way, because most of the time when you are dictating notes or when you are giving a note, the class is not effective because most of them, they can't write because of the way they are sitting. You can see they can't write the notes. And then when you give an assessment, when you give a class exercise or something, most of them, they can't do it because they are more than this. They are about 50 students, but you can see they are less than 50. Most are out. When you complain, they will tell you, madam, no chairs. Madam, you can't sit on the floor. And sometimes you can't blame them because you can't come to school and then you sit on the floor and learn. I don't think it's possible. So that is it. And then the way they are patching. So when you give them work, they copy each other. If this person is writing this, that is the same thing the other person too will write. So it's making our teaching, should I say, very difficult. It's
class captain. Don't look into the book. The students, when you go to classroom, when a teacher enters the classroom, the first thing that you should consider is the classroom setting. So if I come to class and the students, some are sitting on the floor, some are not having chairs to sit on, it disturbs a lot. Before even you can be able to arrange them to suit the lesson, it will take about 5 or 10 minutes of your time. It doesn't facilitate learning.
It is time for lunch, and the students are here to take what is due them, their meal, nicely queued and waiting to be served. Mr. Adam Idrisu is in charge.
We have around 720 students on daily basis. Every day they'll bring their food and then they'll serve them. And then I think that for the food aspect, I think we don't have much problem with them. The food is nutritious and it's also delicious.
But what if there was properly arranged venue for these students?
The basic problem that we have is that where the children are supposed to sit and eat their food, you don't have a canteen or you don't have a place where they are supposed to sit and eat their food. That's the basic problem that we are having here. All this you can see for yourself. Once they take the food, they'll just go and then sit anywhere and then eat it. Because of that, we have problem. And then when they come here, because we don't have a structure, that they have to go there and then take their food there. They will come and then form the queue, they'll join the queue and then take the food. It delays. We are supposed to use 30 minutes for the break, but because of the nature of the structure, we don't have a place for the students to sit there and then eat. Once they come, they will join the queue. It can take them 50 minutes to 1 hour.
The situation is no different at the computer lab.
We don't have enough chairs and enough computers. We need more enough chairs and enough computers. So Harun Adnan, in charge of that, is the head of department for that ICT at Prapuso Senior High School. What we need is a table and desk, because we don't have enough for the computers that we have in the lab. So that's what I think we need as.
Stray animals evade the school every day. The school has an empty laboratory. Nothing is here for science students to undergo practical training. Madam Alice Opoku Ajay is the headmistress of the school.
We have science laboratories, about 4 of them, and they are not complete, so we can't use them. So it's a challenge for us. They haven't complete at all. No equipment for the science, no tools, and then the home economics too, we have started the home economics, but they also don't have their equipment to teach, and it's affecting their studies. Common room and the facilities, without that, they find it difficult to mark their exercises, to find a place to even read more. Even though the library is there, they can't go there because the library too, we don't have furniture now. Since the Form 1 came, some of the problems include the furniture. Tables and chairs, we were having 800, but now they are very small for the school.
Until help comes to this school and alleviate the challenges, students may have to study this way for much longer. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
And the values and attitude towards political system.
We're taking a break, after which we'll bring you business news. We're still to come in the bulletin. The Ghana Broadcasting Corporation is to suspend its operations in Kumasi following a disconnection of its electricity supply. Stay tuned, we'll be back with business in a bit.
Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business. Now, the Institute of Energy Security, IES, has indicated government's failure for highlighting pertinent issues in the development of the downstream petroleum sector during the presentation of the 2018 budget statement. The IES is not happy the 2018 budget, for instance, disregarded the Tema Oil Refinery's development, as well as making provisions to equip the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company BOT to enable it perform its strategic role of releasing fuel stock to cushion the burden of consumers in times of price hikes. In an interview on the Marketplace earlier, principal researcher at the IES, Richmond Roxton, said consumers would not have felt the shocks on the international crude market if BOT was adequately releasing strategic stock of fuel.
When you look at the role of BOT, that is what they are concerned. That is their role, that is their responsibility that we expect them to carry out. Unfortunately, as at the last time we checked, instead of having the 12 weeks, we didn't have even up to the 12 weeks that we're expecting. If we had strategic stocks for the first time in 2 years, that's since June 2015, crude oil prices have crossed the $60 mark. So like I mentioned, that's the last time that happened. As we speak, it's around $62. What it means is that if we had stock, we wouldn't need to import directly whilst we have it's at $60, and whilst gasoline and gas oil prices have gone up on the international market. You just release what you have, because our belief and our research shows that it's not going to be on for a long time. OPEC and Russia and some non-OPEC countries are going to have a meeting very soon on 30th November, and it's part of the reasons why prices are going up, because they're looking at arrangements of cutting down production.
Before we really go to the causes, you've always highlighted on on the stock that we have with BOST. How come, if we're not using it, you're taking that into consideration in your data?
Yes, what we do is that we always put together the stock that we have, and when you check our recent statement, we said that the inflows that came were even small. We had just around 44,000 metric tons in the country. It's relatively lower than what we've had over the period. And we mentioned last year June, that we expected BOST to expand when it comes to storage facilities, because it's important that we increase our 12-week margin to about 6 months. Unfortunately, that hasn't been done. We thought that the budget would take advantage of talking about the expansion at BOST, even the role of Tema Oil Refinery. We didn't see anything.
The Volta River Authority, VRA, says it is in consultation with government over moves to slash utility prices. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on Wednesday announced a cut in electricity tariffs which will take effect in 2018, pending approval by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC. Speaking to Joy Business, Director Technical Services of the VRA, Dr. Alfred K. Ahinkra, says the 14 to 21% reduction in prices will not affect operations of the authority.
So yes, VRA is ready and we're working with government on this issue.
But are there any precautionary measures that you think government would have to take together with the PURC to make sure that the replaying effect of this in a negative sense does not overlap?
I think the government is having a big dialogue on this issue. I mean, there are a lot of things that I believe that government is considering. That's how come they've come out with this reduction figures that they are talking about. There are so many things in the value chain that are being looked at, and for that reason we've arrived at these numbers that they appear in the budget. So there's some dialogue going on behind the scenes.
Okay, but one could say that this very move by governments could affect the operations at the VRA. What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, government is looking at the value chain. I mean, they are looking at the production costs, they are looking at the input prices, they are looking at gas prices. So there's a lot of dialogue going on to look at the inputs into the whole thing. Even some work is being done with the some of the previously procured generation that they are looking at the pricing. So a lot of work is being done in the background, and for which reason the numbers are what we see.
Now, Ghana loses over 300,000 tons of maize annually to post-harvest losses, according to a 2016 study by an expert in post-harvest losses management with the Africa Post-Harvest Losses Information System, Dr. Bruno Tran. The figure represents 18% of the country's annual maize production, with the 3 regions of the north being the major maize producers in the country as the hardest hit. The study blamed the situation on the failure by farmers to dry their maize thoroughly before storing them. Emmanuel Sasu Yabua, Upper West Regional Director of Agriculture, revealed this during the Regional Post-Harvest Losses Forum organized by the Ghana Trades and Livelihood Coalition in collaboration with SNV under the Voice for Change Partnership Project. Rafiq Salam reports.
Over the past decades, significant focus and resources have been allocated to increase food production. For example, 95% of the research investments during the past 30 years were focused on increasing productivity, whilst only 5% was directed towards reducing losses. Upper West Regional Director of Agriculture, Emmanuel Sasu Yabua, at the first Upper West Regional Post-Harvest Losses Forum, noted that food production is currently being challenged by limited land, water, and increased weather variability due to climate change. To sustain and achieve the goals of food and nutrition security, Emmanuel Sasu stated that food availability needs to be increased through reduction in post-harvest process at farms, retail, and consumer levels. He buttressed his point using a study conducted by an expert in post-harvest losses management with the Africa Post-Harvest Losses Information System, Dr. Bruno Tran.
That Ghana loses about 318,514 tons of maize annually to post-harvest losses. This figure represents 18% of the country's annual maize production. The losses recorded per region were as follows. Northern region, 20,411 metric tons. Upper East, 13,000 metric tons. Upper West, 778 metric tons. According to Dr. Tran, most of the maize was lost because the farmers failed to dry them thoroughly before storage.
It is not only maize that post-harvest losses are recorded, but rather major crops such as yam, sorghum, and millet as well.
Another research conducted in 2013 by the Urban Association Limited on post-harvest losses of selected food crops in 11 African countries, including Ghana, under the sponsorship of AGRA, revealed that almost half of food crops produced in the country does not make it to the final consumer.
Upper West Regional Minister Alhaji Suleiman Al-Hassan, in a speech read on his behalf by Alhaji Abubakar Abdullahi, lamented the toil and swore that farmers go through, but in the end, turn out to be a wasteful venture.
I am also aware that many of our mothers, wives, and sisters are engaged in processing and marketing. Groundnut, for instance, is one of the most important crops, and it is produced essentially by women. It is therefore a tragedy to even consider that large quantities of the output of all these efforts are lost to post-harvest management. The implication is that so much of the toil and sweat of the farmer goes into the drain.
Country Programs Coordinator for Netherlands Development Organization, SMV, Eric Banye, commended the government for the initiation of the One District, One Warehouse project. However, he will want the government to sensitize the farmers before the warehouses are put up.
In the north, the value of a farmer is in how many bags of maize he's having in his bedroom, and not how many bags of maize he has in a warehouse. So he will prefer to keep his own grains in his house when he's not even having the space to live than to carry that to the warehouse. So as we move forward, we need to incorporate these cultural practices in trying to say, oh, don't worry, let's put up the warehouses, farmers will bring the additional value. Not necessarily. You will be shocked that the warehouses will be there, but people will still keep the grains in their houses. So culture plays a very key role. And therefore, a lot of awareness and sensitization needs to be created for the farmer to value the fact that he needs to carry his grains to the warehouse.
The forum was organized by the Ghana Trades and Livelihood Coalition, GTLC, in collaboration with SMV under the Voice for Change Partnership Project. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
And back here in the studio, I'm Emmanuel Apuaji Wiafe, and that ends business for tonight. Thank you so much for being with me throughout the week, and it's time to go for a weekend break. Good evening.
Now, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation says it will have to temporarily suspend operations following the disconnection of its power supply by the Electricity Company of Ghana. The disconnection exercise, which resulted in a confrontation on Thursday over a 1.7 million cedis debt, compelled the state broadcaster to resort to a standby generator. Officials, however, say the cost of fueling the generator is unbearable and cannot be sustained. Nane Aljima has more.
Angry staff of the GBC will not allow the ECG team to inspect and move their vehicle away without some resistance.
You can come for your car, but tell Erasmus to stay away.
ECG Public Relations Officer Erasmus Chobedu was restrained from entering the GBC yard as Regional Director Sam Kwetia hints of court action. He denies all allegations against GBC staff and cites ECG personnel at disconnection unit for disrespect. Nane Aljima reporting.
Well, I've been joined on the telephone now by Yao J. Labi, who's the Deputy Head of Public Relations at ECG. Now, let's get back to the story about the disconnection of GBC, disconnecting the electricity supply. And what circumstances do you have to do that?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. Let me make a quick correction before we move on. My name is Dan, not Yao.
Okay.
Dan.
Noted.
Good. I believe you are asking this question because the Ashanti Regional Boss of GBC, Mr. Sam Kwetia, made a statement that the people who came there.
No. I'm asking. Okay, so you disconnected power to the, the Ashanti Regional Office of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm asking, under what circumstances?
Oh, okay. We disconnect power when you owe beyond a certain period, and as the information is already out there, they owe about 1.7 million Ghana cedis, and we've sent demand notices, and they are not making do with their promises. So the only way to get the money is to disconnect them, as we do to all customers.
Yes, and as we noticed in the footages that have become available, it ended up being a confrontation. Did they have to get to that?
I was not there, but it's an unfortunate situation. Under normal circumstances, it shouldn't happen that way, because it's just a simple exercise. When you take a disconnection docket to a customer's premises, you inform the person the reason why you came there, and in this case, just to collect the arrears that they owe. If they are able to pay, you go back.
How long have they owed this amount?
I can't tell because I don't have the docket before me.
As it is now, the state broadcaster is indicating that they would have to shut down operations. Are there any other arrangements to, keep them operating or keep them on air?
Definitely, GBC is a state institution and very key in our developmental efforts, because you need to educate the people, and a lot of our people listen to it. So I know by now there's been some discussion at the top level as to how to go about it. I know they may pay something, because as it's going now, we need the money also to run. And you agree with me, even your station pays. So we can't continue like that.
So as it is, you're talking about the discussions that have been going on, but we're also informed that there was actually a letter from the Ministry of Information asking you to hold on with the disconnection.
I'm not privy to that information.
So as it is, you're going to keep them off air until they pay something?
Once it's been disconnected, normally when state institutions are disconnected, sometimes some interventions come by way of asking us to reconnect, and then arrangements are made to pay them the debt. As I speak now, I cannot tell what will be the case.
Which other states, corporations are you intending to take this exercise to?
I don't have the full list of the. I live in Accra, an Ashanti region, Kumasi in the Ashanti region, and they are operating there. This is a normal exercise, and they don't need to seek permission from Accra before they do their work, because they know what is expected of them.
Are there other state agencies in Accra that are likely to be affected?
I am not privy to that information.
They seized, or one of your vehicles was detained on the premises of GBC. Have you been able to retrieve that vehicle?
During your 5:30 news, I heard my colleague in Kumasi saying that the vehicle has been released, because they went there with the police and they retrieved the vehicle. So it's been released to ECD.
All right, thank you very much. You had Daniel J. He is the Deputy Public Relations Officer of Electricity. For some mothers, the pain of having a premature baby is almost as traumatizing as having miscarriage. So indeed, lack of access to needed care and attention results in some of these babies dying. As the world celebrates Prematurity Day, we caught up with a mother whose baby is still in an incubator, unsure whether he will survive. There is more in this report by Patricia Gasu.
I was in the house, I started feeling pains. But initially I was told it's the baby 10, and so I was okay. But I realized, after 2 days, the pains were too much. So I had to be rushed to the polyclinic. That was where the doctor said the baby's hand was already out. So I had to be rushed to Korle Bu. Within 10 minutes, I delivered. But nobody said anything. They only said, okay, look at your baby. Is it a boy or a girl? I said a boy. Okay. So we are taking him to NICU. That was the first time I even heard of NICU. When you come here for the first time, you cry seeing your baby like that with all the tubes and drips on him and all that. It's not easy because we don't have somewhere we can rest or relax. We have to sit down, wait for the time before we come feeding. Sometimes the stress is so much that you don't even get the milk.
Premature babies are not fully equipped to deal with life in our world, as their little bodies still have underdeveloped parts, making them highly susceptible to infections.
Preterm babies are delicate, very, very delicate. So they need a lot of compassion. They need a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work.
Some babies, according to Dr. Hilary Ando, can stay in an incubator for days, weeks or months, depending on their response rate. But when they become stable, they are moved to the kangaroo mother care unit. Here, mothers of preterm babies are taught kangaroo care.
We want to keep our babies almost warm, always warm, because the preterm is cold that kills them mostly. Okay. If they become schools, the baby will become dull, baby won't suck. So we always want to keep them warm. And it's the mother's chest or the mother's body that is going to provide the warmth as the baby is in the, as if the baby is in the incubator. Okay. So we have a design cloth that we use to tie them on their mother's chest. So after baby is able, mother is able to feed baby, we start our KMC. So baby is put on the chest. It's skin to skin affair.
As the world celebrates World Prematurity Day, Dr. Hilary Ando is advising health practitioners to psych pregnant women for the possibility of premature birth whilst administering antenatal care.
Every mother goes through pregnancy thinking, I'm going to have a full-term healthy baby. But sometimes it doesn't happen. The baby may come full-term and may be ill, or may come preterm and may be stable or ill. And mothers during antenatal care should be talked to about these possibilities, that all hope is not lost if you have a preterm baby.
Indeed, being born preterm is not a death sentence. For Joy News, my name is Patricia Gasu.
Well, today marks World Prematurity Day, a day set aside to raise awareness of preterm births and the concerns of preterm babies as well as their families worldwide. The first International Awareness Day for Preterm Birth on November 17 was created by European parent organizations in 2008. It has been celebrated as World Prematurity Day since 2011. Nesta Kafuya Juma takes a critical look at the world of premature babies in the following report for Joy News.
I am a preterm, I can survive. I am a preterm, help me breathe. I am a preterm, I don't have any spiritual illness like Asram.
This pledge was put together by Dr. Solomon Chemogo and his team at the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit of the Wenchi Methodist Hospital to demystify the issue of premature babies. Some people in the Brong Ahafo region attach spiritual beliefs to babies born before their term. Others believe they have been attacked by Asram, a local term used to refer to tiny unhealthy babies. Such babies, according to doctors, are born before their due dates, especially before the 37th week instead of the mandatory 40 weeks. They are most vulnerable and require proper medical care in order to survive. But many preterm babies here are often not given the necessary care, as some locals consider them outcasts. This middle-aged woman, who does not wish to be named, is a native of Bedu in the Tyne district of the Brong-Ahafo region. She saw her premature baby die 2 weeks after birth because she was administering herbal concoctions.
About 3 years, I'm hospital. Mejiji nro ofie saa ma mfanya hospital sen nti me kodru hospital na kese na omo kire se metamu na enso ye na enya asnam na chi akola no omo ye ya anye yi manya me ba no nsanka no.
The medical officer in charge of the neonatal intensive care unit of Wenchi Methodist Hospital, Dr. Solomon Chemogo, and his team are embarking on a massive campaign to educate mothers on how to properly care for preterm babies.
The focus for this year's Prematurity Awareness Creation Day is on prevention and then improving care for the smallest. Want to educate people, pregnant women, their husbands and their relatives at all levels of healthcare, those on the ward, those who have just delivered and they are going home, and those even at the antenatal clinic who are still carrying pregnancies that are not term. We're educating them and we're demystifying the issue of prematurity. We are informing the public that preterm babies are not spiritual human beings. They should not be abandoned, but they should be given the needed attention for their survival.
Dr. Chemogo recently had his preterm baby transferred to Techiman Holy Family Hospital because the Wenchi Methodist Hospital does not have enough phototherapy machine and incubators. He says more premature babies could survive life if individuals assisted the Wenchi Methodist Hospital with neonatal intensive care equipment.
We as an institution, our eyes are now being keen on every small baby. Want to help them breathe, want to keep them warm, want to keep them clean, and want to help them feed. Because when all these measures are kept in place, then their chance of survival is almost 100%. I mean, without any underlying congenital abnormalities.
The journey of a premature baby is often 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And this is why Dr. Chemogo and his team are keen on helping all preterm babies to survive. Nestor Kafri Ajoma, Joy News, Wenchi.
Meanwhile, a consultant pediatrician at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Victoria May Adabayari, has charged government to help assist in improving health care for premature babies across the country. According to her, congestion at the premier health facility is making it difficult for health professionals to manage premature babies. She explains that critical equipment like incubators, such as incubators, infusion pumps, and others, though essential to save the situation, are not available. She made these remarks in an interview joining shortly after an education program at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to mark World Prematurity Day on the theme, Let Them Thrive.
With regards to the formal health care, there's so much more we can do because most of these specialized centers are in the big cities. But then there are basic cares that can be offered in the district hospitals and other regional centers. We have a lot of congestion in this tertiary hospital when it comes to managing of newborn babies, not only the preterms. So provision of more centers, training of more experts. All experts are necessary, from the doctors to the nurses to the lab to physiotherapists, radiologists. In the whole spectrum of medical personnel is needed. So we still have a long way to go in having adequate human resources. And again, the equipment incubators, again, infusion pumps, antibiotics, x-rays, so many equipment, different kinds are lacking in quite a number of hospitals. The very young ones need a lot of interventions like ventilators and incubators. So without those, we would lose quite a number of them, and we do lose quite a number of them, yeah.
Staying with health, the founder and chairman of the Society for Nurses in Endoscopy and Minimally Invasive Surgeries, SNEMIS Ghana, has expressed worry over the lack of a formal institution for the training of nurses in endoscopy in Ghana and is appealing to government and the Ghana Health Service to help develop and maintain the training of nurses in endoscopy. This, according to Joel Podo, will help end the flaws with the practice of endoscopy and promote proper diagnosis, adequate interventions and infection preventions in Ghana. Mr. Podo also urged health facilities to do well to release and sponsor their staff to attend endoscopy training workshops regularly to update their knowledge and skills in that field. He spoke with Joy News on the sidelines of a workshop for endoscopic nurses and a presentation by the University Hospital of Leicester in the UK of some consumables of the endoscopic machine worth £10,000 to the Brunhafu Regional Hospital, Sunyani.
We don't have an institution, a formal institution or formal training for nurses in endoscopy. And so nurses would have to, most of the time, train on the job. And the big question is, who are they learning from? What are they learning? So that is the main number one challenge. Another challenge too has to do with monitoring and auditing of services, of procedures, of practices of nurses in endoscopy. Nobody monitors them. Everybody does what he or she thinks is the right thing. And we end up not meeting the international standards in most of the instances. Another one too is the willingness of facilities and authorities in hospitals to send their staff for workshops of this nature, trainings of this nature. You know, because there is no formal education or formal training for nurses in endoscopy, this is the only avenue that nurses can develop themselves in the area of endoscopy. By attending workshops like this, you know, they get to meet and learn new ideas and new skills, new knowledge in endoscopy. The facility or any hospital doesn't have the machine. That doesn't stop them from sending people for training. What it is that endoscopy is a very necessary area of medicine, which
The acting managing director of the Brunhafu Regional Hospital, Sunyani, Dr. Emmanuel Kofi Amponsa, has also called on government and other stakeholders to help the regional hospital acquire its own endoscopy machine to end the stress of patients traveling out of the region to access such facilities.
To a patient, you have come here, we need to diagnose something in your GI, either upper GI or lower GI, and the machine is not available. We have to refer you to Konfanoche or Kolebu. And you know the stress people go through when they have to go to Kolebu or Konfanoche. And even the thing is not free. So the small money, the minimum money they have on them, they have to use some for transportation. And if they get there, they have to even do booking. And when they do the booking, you may have to go and get somewhere and sleep before even you get the date that they will do the procedure for you. Otherwise, you go there, do the booking, you come back, and then when the date is due, you go. But now, if you have the machine here, it's going to reduce the stress that patients go through and their relatives go through. So that when it's here, you just come, you book you, and then you come and the thing is done for you, and then you don't go through any stress. So it's very good that we get our own in Sunyani, so that within the Brunhafu region and beyond, those who need these services can come, and then it's done here for them, than to travel all the way to Accra or Kumasi.
As the acting director, how do we get this rectified so that the stress and other things we're talking about will come to an end?
Yeah, that is why I said that even we were lucky to also have the regional minister here, and he gave his word. So we hope the information will be carried up to the powers above. Director General has even written a letter concerning this project. So we hope that all the support that we need, and it's a plea that we are making to them, that they do whatever it takes for us to get our own Nsunyani here, to reduce the burden that patients have to go through when they have to be referred to either Komfo Anokye or Korle Bu.